Today I will tell you something that you already know, but that you have never heard before. To get there, I will explain you the recipe of discovery. Question-answer discovery. Every project starts with a question, every question leads to an answer, and every answer is the start of a new discovery. The only condition for this to work is that the question and the answer should be about something that already exists. And I will tell you, the first project that sparked this recipe started a week after my graduation as an architect. Graduated from Delft, and I sat in the car next to my father on the highway. He's a renowned architect, and in school I learned about the differences between all great minds in architecture. But I wondered and asked my father, what binds all architects? What makes them the same instead of different? And he was quiet for a minute. He really paused. It's a type of man that really thinks about these questions. And then he answered, it's gravity. Everything falls down. It doesn't matter what kind of building you make. You have to deal with this enormous power. And how right he was. Here you have an image of New York. Amazing buildings. In the middle, for those who know the city, you can see the United Nations building by Le Corbusier. He was the first to break with the grid. On the right you see Central Park, where the Guggenheim was built, a revolution in routing. You first go up and then spiral down. But all the buildings, whether it is a postmodernist building or a modernist building, everything falls down. So gravity does dictate the built surroundings around us. And of course, as a young architect, you challenge this and maybe wonder if it's maybe possible to make a building or an artifact, usable artifact, in which another power actually dictates the image. And that started with experimenting with refrigerator magnets, opposing magnets that pushed each other away. That worked for a while. And after many years of research, we came with a floating bed. What you're seeing here is actually a magnetic system in the bed, magnetic system underneath the floor. Again, opposing poles push each other away, and on the four corners you have four thin cables that are tethered to the floor and keep it from falling up instead of down. So for the first time it was actually not gravity dictating the image. And of course, through the years with the partners who helped us design this or helped make it a technical feasible thing, is that it's not one big magnet you see. It's a smart system of changing magnets plus and minus just in the corners where it's needed. And once this was elected best invention by Time magazine in 2006, I thought, okay, this is fun. This recipe sort of works, and let's try it again. But this time, maybe I can find my own answer instead of asking a smart man like my father for it. Maybe if I think a bit longer, I might do the whole thing, the whole trajectory. So since architects are very taken with sustainability and building green, I wondered, can building be like landscape? Can't we celebrate the landscape instead of just being green? And what you see when you zoom out of landscape is that it's not green, but that it's round. It doesn't have a beginning or an ending. On planet Earth, if you see it from afar, the difference between the ocean and land will dissolve. It's one infinite structure, which challenged me to actually start with a piece of paper and maybe look for an infinity loop. We succeeded, and again, after a few years and working with several partners, we came with the landscape house. Complex designing method in a computer led to very complex shapes that you see in the turns. But what you're seeing here is a building that doesn't have a beginning or an ending. So the ceiling, if you follow it with your eyes, turn into the floor, turn into the ceiling, back into the floor, it's infinite. The structure is infinite. but the complex shapes, like the double curved layers that you see, are very hard to make with traditional techniques. You can imagine that you have to make a wooden mold, pour in concrete, and then take the mold away. So we found a great partner in Enrico Dini, an Italian robotic engineer who has I think, the largest, but one of the largest printers, 6 by 6 meters. And what he does with local material, like the sand that you find in situ, he can print up any shape that you want back into rock. So, and it's tested as building material. So basically, these complex shapes that are already in the computer can be made out of the printer directly. Minor detail is that you see the Thinker by Rodin in this image. And Rodin said, I take away what I don't need. But with printing, it's interesting that you actually do make what you do need. So we coined this building Endless Expo Space, and is to be built with a very strong team of partners the coming years in Amsterdam. Then, after that was a successful project again with this formula of question-answer discovery, it was interesting to see if it could work for clients. And a good moment to start was when a client actually asked less houses than were possible if you were looking at the plot of land. He obviously couldn't solve the puzzle, and the question was obvious to try and see if you can build more than possible. And again, the inspiration was taken by something that already exists. In this case, the Tetris computer game. Tetris challenges you to use 100% of the space by penetrating the other layers. And this is what we used to get to the design of the 3 houses, in this case, using 100% of the plot. The blue is one house. It has on the ground floor a north-south view, on the first floor east-west, and a top floor with a terrace. And the other 2 houses have exactly the same quality, believe it or not. Another project, if it works with one client, you try to do it with the next as well. And this was a very nice assignment for a multifunctional building in a harbor area. And what's great about harbor areas is that they have a larger contrast between the very big and the small, as opposed to city centers where everything has the human skill. You have these shipbuilding docks, is what I'm referring to. So the question was, for making this multifunctional building with houses and offices, cultural functions, restaurant, could we again celebrate the difference and unite small and big into one? And if you look at this image, it's hard to say if you're looking at the universe or if you're looking at the atoms within your hand, because they have the same type of quality. So this image actually has something of space, but also of mass, what we call mass. And of course, the next step was, okay, let's try to make a building that has both the quality of space and mass in itself. We took the reference of a castle, a Dutch castle, named Doornenburg. And you all know that castles have these very thick walls. Some have windows in which you can sit, and there are few castles in the world that have the quality that even the stairs are within the walls. They're so thick that they can house functions. So what we did, we exploded the castle over 10 times, and then what you see is that the offices and houses can go into the floor and into the walls. And what you see here is actually the facade. So we cut the castle open, and what you see is a section, but also the facade. So you're looking at both the scale of a building, but also the scale of the city, because the castle rooms grow to become the public places like music hall or restaurant. And this was the moment, and it's the first time I'm going to tell this discovery here at TEDx. But it started a few years ago. When it worked for these projects, the question-answer discovery, I thought, okay, let's ask the hardest question that you can challenge yourself with. And I must say, finding the right question is always more exciting than finding the right answer. But I thought the hardest question was, what are the ingredients of reality? And however exciting it was, it's also a bit scary, because then you have to see how you're going to solve that problem. Again, you start with what's already existing, and this is what scientists agree upon to be the elements of our everyday life. With X, Y, Z, and T for time, you can say where and when something happened, if it really happened somewhere. So I thought our history, the human history, starts at the invention of scripture. Everything before that we call prehistory. So I thought if I could find the words for these abstract elements, that might be the key to find our ingredients of reality. To start with the first one, the X is just a line. It's nothing in itself, but it does give direction. So does an idea. Ideas give direction. What can you do with two lines that you can't do with one? X plus Y is the flat, so you can make an image. That would be the second word. And of course, Z, you have space, and time in itself, again, is nothing. It is related to movement. When the Earth turns around, in 24 hours we call it a day. Around the sun we call it a year, but it's about movement. So these would be the ingredients of our reality. But they would be, of course, very different for everyone here in the room. If you change the idea, for example, of this TED Talk, everybody has its own idea about it, the reality would change. For example, my agent for the floating bed is here, Chinese agent, who wants to bring the floating bed as an art piece to Asia. He might be thinking how to use this TED Talk for this procedure. Someone from the TED organization might be hoping I will finish in time. And of course, the image for this reality is completely different for you guys than for me. The notion of space is different for someone backstage than for you here in the audience. And movement makes it possible for you to hear my voice, but maybe also for you to smell your neighbor, which is very unique for everyone. So this is our subjective reality, the four ingredients. But then what is what we all share? What could be our objective reality? And then you would have to see what is the idea behind all ideas. And I think it has to be nothingness, because it is the biggest idea that there is. It precedes everything, but it will always be an idea. What unites all the images that we have? It has to be light. The base, no light, no image. And the last two I found hardest to discover. What's the essence of space? And that has to be matter. For example, this space here has borders, like this theater. And without the definition of these borders, there wouldn't be any space. So matter is the definition of space. And movement is interesting, because very often as human beings we see movement. I am moving over the stage. But what we leave out is that the space in which it happens is transforming. So transformation, or the transformation within me, is the basics behind movement. So here we have it, 4 ingredients for objective reality. But what is behind all this? It's you, the screen on which it all happens. Thank you.